I forced my neighbors to move out, but I didn't stop there. We, wife and I, live in a townhouse complex. For anyone outside of my country, it's like a row of houses in a gated community. Our complex has 3 rows with 6 houses, and 1 row with 5. Need room for that community pool. The 2 evil neighbors in question lived across from us, the one right across from us Unit 10, and the one to their right Unit 11. Not real numbers for obvious reasons. What you need to know is the driveway separating each of the rows. It's wide enough to fit 2 cars okay-ish. If both cars traveling slowly they can pass each other with ease. When they first moved in we got along okay with them. I even played games with their kids, 3 each per unit, when walking past to my house from the car park. I thought they were good families, as when the kids did something like kick balls at our wall and not stop I would tell the parents and the kids got punished. I explained this cause in just one day they went from a nice family to assaulting my wife. We came home from an event, I think the movies, one night. Another neighbor of ours made it to the driveway before us, so he was first. The people in number 10 whom I will now refer to as Psycho Witch and Butthole Husband had their family van parked out front of their house, across from my house. Kids were getting in and out of the van, while Psycho Witch was keeping an eye on things. Our other neighbor who lives on our side of the complex right next to us moved his car slowly past Psycho Witch and the van first. We will call him Nice Neighbor for now. When Nice Neighbor slowly moved past the van there was no problem at all. My wife was right behind Nice Neighbor and did the exact same thing. Slowly moved her car past in full view of Psycho Witch. The strange thing is that nothing happened. My wife made it past without even a glare. I got out and opened the garage door for her to park the car. We reversed the car into our garage, and I was about to shut the rolling door when Psycho Witch comes screaming over and yelling accusing us of trying to run over her kids. She barged into our garage right past me and banged on the driver's side window to the point my wife had to roll the window down, or Psycho Witch would have broken it. She started pointing a finger and yelling about how dare my wife try and run over her kids. I want to point out that from the time my wife passed the van till the time Psycho Witch came raging over was 2 minutes. Why didn't she blame Nice Neighbor, and why didn't she say anything as my wife moved the car past the van? It's like the worst delayed reaction in history, and to this day we still don't know the real reason they had it out for my wife and I. If the real reason was running over the kids, Psycho Witch would have been in Nice Neighbor's face, or in my wife's face, while she moved the car past the van. My wife felt cornered and scared, and I was about to drag Psycho Witch out of our garage when Butthole Husband came storming over and threatened me to not touch his wife. So I had to leave my wife conned and defenseless as to hold off Butthole Husband in the driveway. After a few minutes of screaming at my wife, Psycho Witch went too far. He slapped my wife hard across the face and her sharp nails left multiple scratch marks and bleeding. That was the last straw for me as my adrenaline kicked in. I'm not a violent guy. I like to think I'm normally smart by having a policy of the best defenses to not get into a fight in the first place. I stormed over to Psycho Witch, but Butthole Husband grabbed my shoulder from behind and demanded to know where I was going. I turned around and gutted the idiot in the stomach with a right hook, then ignored him as he went down. I grabbed Psycho Witch from behind as she was still wailing on my wife and threw her to the ground outside of our garage. I told them to rack off, polite way I said it, and leave us alone. We went inside and called the police to file a report. The police took notes and photos. I even said I punched Butthole Husband in defense of my wife. I got nothing to hide. The police didn't do much apart from taking notes and that was it. The Jekyll and Hyde 180 they pulled on us from good neighbors to assaulting my wife really took us by surprise. In the weeks and months that followed, we got insults, glaring and threats from units 10 and 11 as 11 joined their friends in condemning us. Most others in the complex took our side as they either saw or heard what happened. One thing was clear, units 10 and 11 had to go. We own our house and we ain't up and leaving our lives to cause Psycho Witch wants to start drama with us. First I called Body Corp. They manage the complex, kind of like a commercial HOA, but not an HOA as not run by residents of the complex but a company, and filed a report about both 10 and 11 showcasing all our documented proof of the harassment and threats towards us. Next, I talked to their landlord who owned 10 and 11, and about 5 other houses in the complex as he is a good friend. He seemed concerned, but not enough to kick them out. Guess he really wants rent payments. So I decided to get rid of them myself. First I found their Wi-Fi network, and before I shut them out of it, I got their email address, then locked them out of their own internet connection. I had their phone number from when we were good neighbors and got myself a burner phone. I signed them up for every spam email I could find, ordered tequila to be paid for on delivery every night of the week. I made sure their mailbox was stuffed with advertising. I even had men knocking on the door for promised fun only to leave angry, and had butthole husband and psycho witch at each other's throats. I made sure their phone was ringing at all hours of the night. They even threw the phone out the window. As a final favor, I had a friend who runs a dog washing business come around pretending they booked her. When they explained they had no dogs and told her to duck off, she finally understood what we've been dealing with. They kept berating her to leave, throwing in racial slurs. Bad idea. She took out the hose meant to wash the dogs and sprayed psycho witch and butthole husband and inside the house all over their carpet. I think they finally got the hint and moved out only a month later. Number 11 followed them a few weeks after. The entire complex had a huge pool party and celebration. But I wasn't going to let them off that easy. That psycho wailed on my wife for no good reason. Prepare to lose it all. From when we are on good terms with psycho witch and butthole husband, I knew they were on temp visas. While trying to apply for permanent residency, I made sure to mention to immigration where they had moved to, thanks friends in the rental market, and handed over the police report of them assaulting us in our own home for no good reason. Seems psycho witch didn't make her own police report, so ours was the be all and end all, and was enough to get them kicked out of the country. I know the country they come from. It's hard to get work, while a lot of people from that country move here. I feel zero remorse booting them out. Zero. Zip. Nada. The moral of the story: don't start crap with somebody and assault them for no reason. He grabbed me. I took everything. To start off, I want to clarify that I went way overboard, and at the time this story took place I was at a bad spot in my life, but I do not regret what I did in any way. So about 4 years ago I was working as a certified nurse's aide. I later lost my job for unrelated reasons and never went back into the field for other reasons. While I was there, I was one of 4 who would train the new people. This is only relevant as the person this involves, who will be called John, was one of the guys I trained at our facility. John, for the most part, was easy to get along with, but had a temper, and everyone was aware of it. What I didn't know at the time was that he was also fighting for custody of his child. One day, about a year into him working there, he had messed up some charting. No big deal. I fixed it and corrected him on his mistake. He at first was confused, but I just explained that he might have gotten the charting numbers mixed up, and it was no problem. Now for reference, we did our charting paper style at the desk located between 2 of the halls, and occasionally our residents, patients, would be sitting in front of it while chatting with us. As most of them were dementia care, they never really remembered what would be said, but regardless, we never talked about anyone by name, only room number or chart number. About an hour after this, I got done cleaning up from a resident shower and he came in the shower room and asked to talk to me. Sure, that's fine as it was a private area. He made mention that he didn't appreciate me correcting him in front of people. It made sense, so I apologized and told him it wouldn't happen again. I don't know where I went wrong, but he started getting loud about how it was his hall and no one had the right to talk to him like that. Now I'm pissed. I told him that 1. We don't have hall leads at our facility, nor does any nursing home I have seen, excluding maybe our nurses, who are in charge, and 2. I have been here 4 years longer than him, and apparently nothing I said while training him stuck. This didn't sit well with him. He proceeded to pin me to the wall of the shower room with his arm across my throat and hand holding my shirt. As he held me there, he told me if I ever talked to him like that again, he was reporting me to the State for Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act (HIPAA) violations. Now HIPAA is not something I take lightly. One slip up could cost you everything in this field with a HIPAA violation. I was red with anger. My thing is, I'm double this guy's size and didn't want to lose my job for fighting with a coworker. The place was terrible, but I enjoyed helping the residents. So I started thinking, and immediately had an idea. If there was one thing I knew, it was that the only thing worse for your license, that a HIPAA violation, was elder abuse. So I started my scheme. We had a man on our hall who had brain damage from football, and as such was highly combative, and took 2 people to normally handle him. I was able to do him on my own generally, as I talked to him about football while taking care of him. I played defensive line in high school. If there was one thing I knew, it was that the only thing worse for your license, that a HIPAA violation, was elder abuse. So I started my scheme. We had a man on our hall who had brain damage from football, and as such was highly combative, and took 2 people to normally handle him. I was able to do him on my own generally, as I talked to him about football while taking care of him. I played defensive line in high school. That day he had developed a bruise on his chest, and I had no clue where it came from, but I had where I was going to say it came from down. I immediately called in John to help me transfer this resident to bed. As we got done and went into the hall, I, saying it just loud enough for several CNAs and nurses to hear, stated, "I don't care why you did it, you never hit a patient." He was taken aback by this whole statement. It clicked after about 5 seconds what I just did to him. The nurses had me write a statement in which I mentioned I had asked if he knew where that new bruise came from, and John told me that while he was walking the resident to the bathroom, he kept squeezing his arm, so he hit him in the chest. Yes, the guy would squeeze arms and wrists when being walked. The next day I came in and found out that John lost his job and police and adult protective services were pressing charges on him. I don't know if he was found guilty or not. I did find out a few weeks later, however, that he not only lost his license, he also lost complete custody of his child to his ex-wife and got no visitation. On top of that, he had to sell everything he owned in order to pay for his lawyer. Needless to say, I could have been a little more fair with him, but I loved watching his life burn down around him. Let it be learned, don't grab or threaten people who can ruin your life with the drop of a hat. Irritating vegan temp takes office pranks way too far, so I destroy her entire life paradigm. At the time I was male 27, a 7-year veteran at a large tech corporation, senior designer on the communications team by then. The senior copywriter went on maternal leave, leaving a temp in her place. Although irritating in a non-descriptive way, she presented well and seemed competent enough. For later context, she was also an Uber dog lover and a staunch and righteous vegan social justice warrior. There were frequent, mutual, and innocent team pranks. Things like replacing a box of diet cookies with a box of Krispy Kremes, or covering the laser on someone's mouse, like, "Oh you dog, you got me," kind of things. Now let me fix that and let you get back to work. Being desperate for acceptance, new temp started taking things a bit far and seemed to focus pranks directly towards me. Even after a few subtle reprimands from our manager, she continued. Things like slipping inappropriate photos or comments into a PowerPoint presentation on the shared drive I was about to give, or fake crying during morning stand-up just to gauge reactions. Her novelty wore off fast. Fast forward to the morning after my birthday. She knew I was going to be hungover. I get to my desk, red-eyed and thirsty as hell. Grabbed my water bottle at my desk, which I always kept full, and started chugging like it was going to save my life. It was straight vodka. At least 2 full swallows before I realized I go straight for my garbage bin to throw up. The slurry of alphabet soup, at least 6 cans of beer, and God knows what else she put in there, made damn sure I did hurl. I got most of the vodka out, but already being hungover, it made me instantly drunk again. Was not impressed. She came in laughing her brains out, taking full claim. I didn't snitch on her, but the story made its rounds to HR, and she was given a stern warning. I would have accepted an apology, even remorse, but not a shred. In fact, she started calling me Pukey MacG to literally no one's fanfare. I let it pass for a few weeks, waiting for the attention to die down. Revenge day finally arrived. She always left at 10 AM to get a Starbucks. I took this time to plaster lost dog posters anywhere outside the office she might stumble by on her way back. She fell for the bait, asking around, but no one was the wiser. Once she was cozy at her desk, I went to her car to stage a hit and run massacre. With chunks of fatty steak, a liter of fake blood, an old leash and collar, and a bag of fake fur, I went to work. I'd share the pic, but it's long gone. But it was very convincing. Looked like a leash was caught around her rear passenger axle and the dog got clogged and shredded between the tire and wheel well. I left the collar dangling out the back with a particularly generous portion of gore and puddle of blood. It didn't take long before others noticed the lost dog posters or the gory car and put 2 and 2 together. Eventually, the owner of a white so-and-so with license plate such and such, please come to reception, went over the intercom. It's on. It was delicious. She was out in the lot sobbing so hard she was coughing. Carefully placing chunks of bloody furry gore into a box. It took her an hour to gather every precious bit, crying the entire time. My theory was that she wanted to return the dog to its owner as best she could before calling the number on the poster. Was a shame there was no owner or dog, but she was too distraught to realize it was fake. I thought for sure the lack of bones or guts, and obviously fake, sticky stage blood, would be a near instant giveaway, but to my utter shock, it wasn't. A scenario I wasn't expecting, but welcomed just the same. It was just assumed the dog owner had printed the wrong number on the poster, because the remains never were returned. She had the collar and leash cleaned and posted posters of her own in hopes of finding the owner. Given her reputation, there wasn't much sympathy offered. The righteous vegan dog lover was now a dog killer, and I took every chance I could to remind her of that. She took down all her dog lover crap off her desk and kept very much to herself for the remainder of her term. Bonus that she even left early, but not sure if I can take credit for that for certain. Edit. Thought I should clear a few things up based on the comments. 1. OP is not a vegan, however is a huge animal lover, owned several dogs, cats and has rescued many animals, wild and domestic. 2. OP has nothing against vegans, just the ones that preach it. Relevant distinction for her personality and subsequent reaction, not the reason for revenge. 3. Steak bits was an easier way of describing a bag of butcher scraps. 4. To make it clear to the ones that thought this was petty revenge for minor inconveniences, here is a list of some of the more inconvenient pranks. 5. Replacing water with vodka was just the last straw and is tantamount to poisoning, illegal, and quite possibly fatal. Medication alone could seal that deal quite quickly. 6. Hiding car keys then leaving wasted hours of people's lives, but was welcome news to cab companies. 7. Pulling fuses from cars is dangerous, again could be fatal. Brake lights, headlights, airbags, all very important, you should think, right? 8. Releasing tire pressure, does your office have an air compressor on hand? 9. Lacing others' presentations with profanity and photos could be a career ending. Not inconvenient to have to check every file before sending or presenting.